Hey guys, welcome back. We're continuing our NBA podcasts for 2015-2016 season previews. This time we're going to be talking about the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, so last season, the Milwaukee Bucks, in almost a surprising development with Jason Kidd in his first season as the Bucks head coach, they were 500. They were 41-41, and they made the Eastern Conference playoffs. They lost to the Bulls in the first round, but it was a really surprising thing for them to make the playoffs when a lot of people were expecting them to just be a lottery team.
Yeah, for sure. So the key additions to this team over the offseason were obviously the big name of Greg Monroe. They also picked up sneaky deals on Grievous Vasquez, Chris Copeland, and drafted Rashad Vaughn.
Yep, and their losses were kind of major, but these were players that were being phased out last season. They lost Jared Dudley, Ersan Ilyasova, and Sasha Pachulia, the Georgian god himself.
Well, yeah, Zaza Pachulia kind of was a big loss for them, but obviously they got Greg Monroe, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, they lost the defense and replaced it with offense, basically.
Yeah, so let's roll into their lineup. Point guard, they have Michael Carter-Williams. Shooting guard, Chris Middleton, fresh off signing his new contract.
Huge contract.
Deserved contract, but yeah, kind of admittedly large. Small forward, still Giannis Antetokounmpo. Power forward, Jabari Parker returns, finally, after missing a huge chunk of his rookie year. And center, obviously, Greg Monroe.
Yeah, I like this lineup. There's a lot of players that, all their players are 6'5" and taller.
Honestly, what I see in this lineup, which is kind of cool, is they flip-flopped what normally happens. You know, a lot of lineups, they have the speedy guards that are kind of porous defensively, and then they have two big men that can, clean up after them. It's the other way around here, where they have three guards out in front that are extremely large, lanky, and good defenders. And then they kind of have an unproven defender in Parker and kind of a net negative defender in Monroe. But you don't have to worry about that because they're not going to be getting into the paint because they can't get past the length of your point guard, shooting guard, and small forward.
Yeah, I think MCW's might be a little bit overrated on defense, but
he's got
Jason
that length.
Kidd might just get him to lock down on defense and use his length to an advantage.
Yeah. So what do you have as the stat for this team?
So my stat for this team was Greg Monroe took 91% of his shots in the paint last year, and 67% of them were right at the rim inside the restricted area. That might be a minor thing, for the team overall, but that shows, there really isn't that much spacing within this team. With you going over the lineup, there really isn't that much of a shooter. Off the bench, you have O.J. Mayo and Jared Bayless, but offensively, you have nobody to shoot. MCW relies on penetrating.
You have Chris Middleton. Middleton's a good shooter.
Yeah, Middleton's a good shooter, but the rest of the team, they all rely on penetrating and getting to the basket. And I don't know how that'll work out for them.
I think
they were successful last season, and they even got even better this year. So my money's on Jason Kidd to figure it out.
Yeah. My stat is 256. Well, 25.6 is the percentage.
4 to 8, 2 to the 8th power, too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 25.6% is the percent that Carter-Williams shot from three-point percentage. It also is the percentage very similar to the percentage that Jason Kidd shot in his first couple of years in the league from three.
When they called him Asen because he had no J.
Exactly. So I'm really interested to see if maybe a full off season with Jason Kidd is kind of molded Carter-Williams into a Jason Kidd type player. You know, aside from the domestic abuse and DUIs and spilling drinks, maybe the player kid could come out in Carter-Williams, which would be really cool if he starts, racking up 10 assists and 17 points and shooting even 32% from 3-point.
Yeah.
Just providing that spacing that you were talking about.
Yeah, like I don't think NCW has like that kind of vision that Kid has, but like he has all the tools. Like in Philly, he was averaging almost a double double, and like he has the length to rebound. But maybe we see it this season, but maybe not.
Maybe. Obviously, they still did perfectly fine, given their lack of spacing last season. So I guess we'll see what happens. Another stat that could define them that we kind of both of us touched upon, just opponent point per game. It's going to be really hard to score on this team. Not from the center position, but there's not so many dominant centers that put up 20-plus points. That I don't think Monroe's really going to be exposed. I think Jason Kidd's going to have a system built around him, and they were really good defensive efficiency last year. I think they were 6th in the league. So another year under the system, another year of maturation from these young kids. I think they could be really good this year at stopping people from scoring.
Right, and that kind of leads me to my big picture assessment of this team. Like you were saying, like they're going to be tough on defense. I think, like, with the current lineup, with all their tall, lanky guys, like, this is going to be a really interesting team to watch defensively. Having all these guys the same size, 6'7" and taller, they can run some really interesting offensive and defensive schemes. Like, in that season with the Nets, he started Sean Livingston, Joe Johnson, Paul Pierce, and Allen Anderson. Those are all similar guys. Like, instead of, like, guarding the pick and roll where you switch and it causes a mismatch, like having Michael Carter-Williams switch onto a power forward on a pick and roll won't be that big of a deal because he's almost the same size as Jabari Parker. I mean, Greg Monroe, he'll be great for them on offense, but he's probably the only defensive liability. Other than that, like their bench is really good, and I'm really interested to see how this team does this season, to see like if they do any further development or if they remain the same and just take a step back and need to develop a little bit more.
Yeah. This season's really cool for Milwaukee because they're a top competitor in the East while also they get to continue developing their players. They're one of the youngest teams in the game right now. And it's really interesting to see that they're so competitive at this early of a stage, and if they keep this core together for 5 years even, they could be challenging for titles within, I think, a year or two, if you give them the right development schemes. That's going to be really fun to watch. Especially, we have Jabari Parker coming back essentially to play out his rookie year.
Sure.
And he was really kind of hitting his stride towards the end, right before he got injured. He was only scoring about 12.3 points per game or something like that. But if we see him take the strides of the offseason, obviously he's had the whole time to kind of relax and get everything together and rest. If he comes out firing after developing, studying under Jason Kidd, learning defense, playing with NBA players.
Kidd University.
Yeah. He could come out firing. I'm predicting he scores at like about 16 points per game at least on the season.
Yeah, like a lot of people compared him to like almost a Carmelo Anthony type player. Like with him at the 4, it's pretty interesting, and it shows like how different this game is becoming.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these players, we saw Giannis kind of take a big step. He went from, I think it was like 6 points per game or something to 12 points per game.
He went from like not knowing how to play basketball to actually knowing how to play basketball last season, just a little bit.
So like imagine what another season's given him, and he's only 20 years old.
Yeah. Like they were even playing him at point guard last season too, which is pretty insane when you really see his length and see how he moves along the court.
Yeah, he's 6'11". He's a 7-foot point guard.
Yeah.
He's only 20 years old. He's had 2 years to play against NBA professionals. I mean, he's going to be really good.
Yeah. So how exciting do you think this team will be?
I gave them an 8.5.
Okay.
8.5. If they continue to play the way they were at the end of last season, it'd be phenomenal to watch. And Monroe, while they should be up at a 10 because their aspirations are so big and they have so many young players, and obviously I've given like development of young players such a big boost in these excitement rankings, but Monroe kind of will slow them down. He'll make them a little less exciting while making them win more games. You know what I mean? He's a slower plotter. He kind of just dribble in his post, turns his back, and then hook or like turns over and bullies his way in for a layup. You know, it's a slower game with him, which kind of takes away the fun from this team. They were so free-flowing and running. Zaza didn't really take any offensive possessions. He just gave them to other people. So they didn't really get bogged down by post-ups. But I think if Monroe fits seamlessly in, like once he starts fitting better with this team and they build some chemistry, they could go up to a 9.5 for sure.
Yeah. For the similar reasons, I have them at a 7.5. I think they're going to be really exciting as well. But like you were saying, like having Greg Monroe there, it's going to slow them down a bit. But that really isn't a major thing. I think the thing that brings them down for me is like their lack of shooting. Because you're going to see some really ugly mid-range shots from them. You're going to see a lot of I feel like you're going to see a lot of turnovers from them just because they're so young and because like they rely so much on dribble penetration. Like you might see a lot of turnovers from this team, and that might not be good for them moving forward. Like once they get their shooting down, or if they trade or for a shooter or they develop a shooter, aside from Chris Middleton, they're going to be a really good team.
Yeah, I know me and you talked before we started this one about OJ Mayo. If OJ Mayo can find some sort of renaissance and go back to...
If OJ Mayo actually becomes an NBA player.
Yeah.
Last season, he kind of wasn't that great. Like he gained a lot of weight. I think this season, he has a new hairstyle. He looks a little bit less heavy. So maybe we see some more from OJ Mayo.
Yeah. So where do you see them fitting in on rankings?
I have them around 40, 45 wins. I see them definitely making the playoffs this year, barring any major chemistry or lineup issues. But aside from that, they're going to be a playoff team, but having the experience to play in the playoffs again, even if they lose in the first round, it'll be great for the development of their young guys.
Yeah. I put them at 45 wins as well. I think that's a great place for them to sit. Just, they're in the middle tier of those teams. I think they're more of a 5 seed this year. They were 6 seed last year, so I'm not expecting a huge jump in standings, but that's just more saying about Indiana and Miami, how far I expect those teams to compete and rise. So I think they sit at the 5 seed. I think they might get past the first round. I have that as their ceiling. They go to the semis of the Eastern Conference. But that's just luck of the draw, seeing on who they get at the 4 spot.
Yeah, and how well they play during the regular season, too.
Exactly. So then I guess on to social media.
So, yeah, the Bucks were kind of maybe one of the most boring social media type teams in the league. They have some really good character guys. Giannis, Greg Monroe, Jabari Parker. But they have new uniforms. How do you feel about that? They're kind of throwing it back to the 70s, 80s, Lou Alcindor Milwaukee Bucks with a green and a cream color.
I like it. And they have a new logo to go with it, and I kind of like it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
How do you feel about the no more their uniforms don't look like Christmas trees anymore? How do you feel about that?
Sad. I do like the Christmas tree aspect. I like to dress in that as often as I can.
The green and red.
But I think it's good for them. They're going in a new direction. They're kind of getting away from that mediocrity that was the old Milwaukee Bucks. So that could explain why they're trying out these new uniforms. But also a lot of teams did that over the offseason. I think Clippers did it for a very similar reason. Reinvented a logo and got new uniforms out there.
Just a little bit uglier than the current Bucks ones.
Yeah, they're just teams trying to get away from what was their mediocre existence the past couple of years.
Yeah, and the new Bucks logo, the Milwaukee Buck on it looks pretty intimidating. And there's some hidden messages in there. There's a hidden basketball in there. There's a hidden end in there, and that buck has white eyes, and it's pretty intimidating.
Definitely. In other news of social media with the Bucks, not only we talked about, they got their stadium situation fixed. They're hopefully not getting moved to Las Vegas or Seattle, which is great news for them. I think it's still a little up in the air. I don't think it's been finalized, but I'm pretty sure they have something in the works.
I mean, either way, Seattle needs a team. Whether they come from Milwaukee or they're an expansion team, Seattle needs a team.
Oh, this is a discussion we need to save for another podcast. I've written so much about ways that they can implement this. But yes, there's so many cities that need a basketball team.
Yeah.
But even weirder, there's reports out there. This sort of relates to the Bucks. Not really about the Bucks so much, but it's about one of their famous old players. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Ray Allen?
No. Not famous for good reasons. Larry Sanders.
Oh.
Larry Sanders is apparently getting offers from teams.
That's shady. He still had like 4 years left on his contract, and
yeah, he still's owed like $27 million or something. The Bucks are essentially paying him the next 7 years, according to the buyout that they reached with him.
Yeah,
they're paying it in increments. But why would you approach Larry Sanders?
I don't know. Maybe
it must be Dallas. It has to be Dallas.
Yeah.
Who else could it be that would be so desperate for a center that they're like, you know what? Let's go to the weed-using dude that left mid-season.
It could be the Kings. Who knows? The Kings
the
Kings are doing Kings things.
They offer him a $22 million contract with all the extra cap space from the Philly trade.
Yeah, they really didn't spend much this offseason. So we're gonna swing for the fences and get Larry Sanders.
Yeah, Larry Sanders, Willie Cauley-Stein as the front court.
Marcus.
Put Cousins in at small forward.
I say play Cousins in the point guard. Completely bench Rondo.
Oh man, but I'm so baffled by this. Why would somebody approach Larry Sanders?
I mean, Metta World Peace is back on the Lakers, so.
But Metta World Peace tried to play. Larry Sanders left. He was just he walked in and they were like, "Hey Larry, you gonna come practice today?" And he was like, "Nah, I quit," and left.
Yeah.
In January or March, what?
I love weed too much.
Oh man, and I'm pretty sure he has a fear of playing. He described what it was. It was odd, but I understood where he was coming from with it. But I mean, if you know this,
Royce White.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Nobody's approaching Royce White and saying "Yo, Royce, come play for us."
He played for the Clippers Summer League team.
Yeah, but he only played in 2 games because he lives in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's because he didn't have to move. Royce White is the couch potato NBA player.
Larry Sanders is probably a close second. And then maybe OJ Mayo, close third.
I don't know. Raymond Felton, close third.
He's decent.
I don't know. That just boggled me. And I thought I'd bring that up for social media stuff. Just reports were going out there that Larry Sanders was getting offers from potential wanters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something to chew on.
Yeah, something to think about. Anything else to add?
If you're still playing 2K15, take Larry Sanders in the association draft. He's awesome as in the video game.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the one putting out the flyer on Larry Sanders because I just don't want him to leave 2K. All right. Anything else from you?
Nope.
We're
all covered.
All right. Well, then that's it, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Okay, bye.